Hello and welcome. My name is Georgina and today we will be looking at perspectives in psychology. This discussion will outline two psychological perspectives by evaluating the principles, assumptions, and contributions by key theorists. It'll compare their similarities and differences, analysing how they view behaviour and mental processes, and finally an evaluation of the application of these perspectives to contemporary issues in psychology and demonstrating their relevance regarding modern challenges. The seven main psychological perspectives are psychodynamic, behavioral, cognitive, biological, cross-cultural, evolutionary, and humanistic. Each approach has its own way to understand human thinking, emotions, and behavior, and let's look at two of these more closely. Firstly, behaviorism is described as a theoretical perspective in psychology by McLeod as it explains how individuals acquire observable behaviors through their environment irrespective of their personality, genetics, or skills. It emphasizes that behavior can be conditioned, leading people to respond in particular ways regardless of their inherited traits. This theory concentrates solely on external behavioral responses to stimuli rather than internal thoughts or emotions as investigated by McLeod. And Watson believed that emotional responses like fear, love, and anger were not innate but rather learned through association. Williams suggested that Watson outlined several fundamental assumptions about the methodology and behavioral analysis. These were that behavioralists assert that our actions are shaped by environmental stimuli, emphasizing a nurture-based approach on observable and measurable behaviors, as well as highlighting that behavior is primarily acquired through environmental interactions. Discovering that humans and animals exhibit similar learning patterns, research conducted on animals can be applied to behavior of humans, and the behavioral approach relies on controlled lab experiments to align with its objectivity and scientific methodology in psychology. Thanks to the inquiries of McLeod, we have a better understanding that there are several advantages to behavioral psychology. Those being that it has scientific credibility as experiments used within this theory are laboratory-based with restricted opportunity for environmental factors to alter the results with no room for personal judgment, making them easy to replicate for numerous participants. Systematic desensitization therapy can be successful when treating an individual with anxiety disorders. And stemming from classical conditioning, this tailors our thought processes using relaxation techniques. Behavioral psychologists are also responsible for findings being obtained through animal research. Limitations to the use of behavioral psychology, as pointed out by McLeod, as humans and animals have different cognitive makeups, therefore, research which has been carried out on animals could be hard to compare this against the complexity of the human brain, and this theory is very focused on observable behavior, making it difficult to assess the impact of our mental health as it ignores personal memories which inspire our actions, making this perspective deterministic and reductionist. Discovered by Russian psychologist Pavlov, classical conditioning is a learning process based on association which involves linking two stimuli to create a newly learned response in a person or animal as investigated by McLeod. Explained by Cherry, one of the most famous examples of classical conditioning is Ivan Pavlov's experiment in 1897, when dogs started salivating upon hearing a bell. Pavlov demonstrated that by ringing a bell before feeding the dogs, they learned to associate the sound with food. However, there is a limitation to work being carried out on animals, as the results would be hard to generalize to the human makeup. McLeod found that Watson and Rayner were the first psychologists to use classical conditioning principles to study human behavior, investigating how this learning process could contribute to the development of phobias. In this experiment, a baby who had no prior fear was conditioned to develop the fear of a rat, and whilst this experiment was highly unethical due to exposing a young child to intentional fear and discomfort, due to the baby being the only subject within the experiment, the sample size was too small to generalize. Operant conditioning, as pointed out by Cherry, was first introduced by behavioral psychologist B. F. Skinner. He contended that the internal thoughts and motivations were unnecessary for explaining behavior, as he believed the focus should be on external and observable factors which shape human behavior and develop the idea of reinforcements to manipulate human behavior using association. The study involved lab rats learning through this process, so when they pressed a lever whilst a green light was on, they received a food pellet as a reward. Despite pressing the lever when a red light was on, the rat would receive a mild electric shock. Eventually, the rats learned to press the lever only when the green light appeared. This demonstrates that positive reinforcement will enhance a positive behavior in comparison to negative reinforcement where the rats learned to associate the light with an unwanted pain. Due to the research carried out by Skinner, which led to behavioral psychology to become accredited quantitative science, analysed by Nickerson, there is some dispute to the reliability of these experiments, as they were used on various animals which could be difficult to generalise the findings to the complexity of humanity, as well as overshadowing the influence of innate biological factors. The second perspective, which was established by Sigmund Freud, is the psychodynamic perspective, which was discovered in the early 1900s, and the psychodynamic approach highlights that our thoughts and behaviours are processed based on the concept of the unconscious mind and beyond our conscious self-control, as researched by Wade. Riley found that in Freud's opinion, childhood trauma was a likely cause to mental disorders, and therefore he found that the unconscious mind plays a crucial part and developed a process where patients talk about their problems to recall the hidden memories and ease the symptoms that they may be experiencing. Resden in 2020 suggested that Freud developed numerous crucial assumptions about the psychodynamic approach, such as unconscious influences such as social, biological, and psychological factors play a significant role in shaping our behavior. MacLeod and Wade agreed that the personality is believed to have had three concepts, known as the ego, id, and superego. Past experiences in childhood continue to influence present behavior, and often in ways we may not be able to identify. Gaining insight and emotional awareness can help individuals process psychological challenges and develop healthier coping mechanisms. Expanding personal choices and having stronger relationships can further support personal growth and problem solving. And freeing oneself of the reminders of the past can lead to a more fulfilling and positive future. Family nurse Weatherhead research of the psychodynamic theory continues applies today, as this form of therapy supports individuals who are struggling with their thought processes and behaviours, and this allows them to work through and identify the root cause, potentially stemming from early childhood experiences, and this is a technique that is still recognised worldwide. Feltham argued that the limitations regarding the psychodynamic theory is that there is a restriction to the level of science validity, as it can be difficult to test concepts such as the unconscious mind, making results hard to generalize. This is also a time-consuming process, as well as it may not be financially viable for all individuals. A restriction of interpretation was also highlighted, as the patient and therapist may have two separate viewpoints over the same action, causing a misinterpretation. CBT has been recognized to treat anxiety and phobias. However, this therapy sometimes neglects practical solutions. Researched by Cherry, Freud described the unconscious mind as a hidden place of thoughts, memories, emotions, as well as desires which are hidden from our conscious thoughts. He suggested it conceals our urges and negative experiences. Although these are still commonly suppressed, Freud argued that they still influence our behavior and psychological processes. Freud later compared his theory to the mind in the human of an iceberg, and it was made up of three structures, highlighted by MacLeod: the conscious, which recognizes our current thoughts, the preconscious, which stores information for when needed, and the unconscious, which has got memories and thoughts locked away. MacLeod explored that psychoanalysis was the first talking cure and reflected the importance of childhood experiences in personality development. Psychoanalysis also recognized that some physical symptoms have psychological causes, leading to approaches like play therapy for children. That being said, MacLeod pointed out that psychoanalysis has weaknesses, as it is falsifiable due to being unable to test scientifically, reliance on subjective interpretation, and a lack of strong empirical evidence. It is also deterministic and based on an unrepresentative sample, reducing its ability to generalize. Additionally, it is reductionist, overlooking mental processes in behavior and mental health. Investigated by Fordham and Fordham, Carl Jung was a psychiatrist who discovered analytical psychology. He admired the work of Sigmund Freud, but they later separated due to alternative opinions of the unconscious mind. Jung suggested that the collective unconscious, which is beyond the personal unconscious, saying humans have a deeper layer of unconsciousness which were more influential to shaping our personality and motivation. He identified recurrent symbols known as archetypes and themes within our dreams, representing our true self, rather than the image we present to others, and serves as the primary source of communication within the collective unconscious. Jung believed in individualization as psychological growth involving integrating different parts to the self to achieve wholeness and self-actualization. He introduced personality traits such as introversion and extroversion. Jung saw dreams as the means of self-discovery and personal growth. His ideas continue to influence modern psychology today, and his work laid the foundation for depth psychology and modern therapy approaches. As explored by MacLeod, the persona, in the opinion of Carl Jung, is the mask which we wear to the outside world to hide our true selves. This then allows us to adapt how we interact with each other, while it helps navigate social situations, as a well-managed persona should support our true personality to enhance truthfulness in social interactions. Examined by Kunkirk using Jung's theory, there has been significant progress regarding reducing patient symptoms severity and improving their relationships, as well as helping with personality structure, has been witnessed with benefits for lasting over 5 years. Individuals have experienced further progress even when stopping their therapy, and this was noted as fewer patients were using these types of services within healthcare. Patients were recording lower scores when assessing their mental health after multiple sessions of intervention, which on average was about 90 sessions. Consequently, Jung's therapy may not be the most beneficial approach to everyone, as this relies on the use of symbolism and metaphorical interpretations based on our individual experiences, making this difficult to assess as the collective unconscious is based on hypothetical facts as stated by Kunkirk. From the research carried out by Rutter, we can examine the similarities and differences between these two perspectives. Similarities. Rutter found that both psychodynamic and behavioral psychology recognize that nurture plays a strong role in modifying our behaviors, and this is demonstrated through the use of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Behavioral psychologists perceive through the use of classical conditioning and reinforcement techniques, whereas psychodynamic focuses more on internal difficulties. Stemming from classical conditioning, this tailors our thought processes using relaxation techniques. The psychodynamic approach underlines an individual's behavior is determined by their unconscious motives which have been shaped by childhood experiences, compared to behavioral psychologists who focus on observable behavior based on classical conditioning. These perspectives are both determined, as they both believe that behavior is influenced by situations that we have no control over, and both have influenced modern psychology to continue to be applied in contemporary issues via behavior modification, as behavioral psychologists rely on scientific research in comparison to psychodynamic psychologists who use talk therapy. The differences Rutter observed was that Freud takes a more balanced approach and is aware of both nature and nurture when observing an individual's behavior. The psychodynamic approach also suggests that we are driven by biological instincts represented by the id due to nature, but these instincts are expressed depending on our environment and childhood experiences from nurture. Behavioral psychologists are reductionists, as they believe behavior can be broken down, which can be studied through stimulus-response experiments. Alternatively, the psychodynamic approach is a primary holistic method, which Freud believed that to understand an individual's behavior, we'd have to consider the unconscious motivations, emotions, and childhood experiences. Rutter reviewed behaviorism to be known for its empirical research methods. However, the concepts produced by Freud cannot be tested empirically, The theory is not falsifiable, as if people behave in the predicted outcome is viewed as a success, and if they don't, it was suggested they'd use a defense mechanism. Beck Institute suggested that Aaron Beck discovered the use of CBT in the 1960s as a token-based intervention which allows individuals to work through their ways of thinking and to hopefully gain insight to improve their quality of life. CBT works by breaking down negative thoughts and behavioral patterns into smaller parts by highlighting current problems and aims to improve our well-being. Montes explains how the process follows 4 stages: identifying negative situations, becoming aware of our internal thoughts and processes, recognizing those thoughts, and then reshaping negative and inaccurate thinking. Some of the positives regarding CBT is that it can be used in a variety of methods, such as online and face-to-face, and is beneficial for various mental disorders. This therapy is easy to access and to schedule into the busy life of work and family from the NHS. On the other hand, CBT is multiple sessions which all must be attended, as well as working towards any goals set within your sessions, which therefore can become time-consuming. CBT can be a difficult process for individuals who have additional learning needs or severe mental health complications such as schizophrenia. However, it concentrates on the present behaviours and thoughts processes and ignores previous traumas, again from the NHS. As pointed out by McLeod, Albert Bandur's social learning theory explains how behaviours are developed through observation, imitating and modelling others. While social learning theory has many strengths, it undermines the role of biological influences and struggles to account for new behaviours lacking empirical methods for assessing cognitive processes accurately. Despite these limitations, it remains a fundamental theory in psychology linking behaviorism with cognitive learning. Psychologues Will discovered that social learning theory can be applied to the workplace as it coincides with B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning theory through the use of positive reinforcement by rewarding staff to feel more valued and motivated whilst at work. On the other hand, reinforcements will overlook any underlying issues as to why an individual may have a lower morale or motivation. This is a delicate technique, and if used incorrectly, this could demonstrate signs of favoritism towards staff, leading to a negative working environment. Monk describes a psychodynamic theory by saying it's all about getting to the root of the problem to create long-lasting change. By exploring how our past experiences, unconscious thoughts and impulses influence our present feelings and behaviours, this form of therapy can be successful for various mental health issues. Psychodynamic therapy has numerous advantages, such as a holistic approach by taking an individual's past experiences and how they may shape their current thoughts and behaviours. This type of therapy allows to build stronger relationships both physically and mentally by to help it treat the symptoms of various traumas and addictions, establishing helpful behaviours and thought processes. Psychodynamic therapy also promotes self-confidence and beneficial habits, as explored by the mental health general staff. Then again, the mental health general staff found that psychodynamic therapy can have some limitations, as individuals with deep trauma may not be able to process and overcome such strong emotions within a short time, and not fully process the complexity of their thoughts and behaviours. Having to reflect on their most vulnerable moments could be a challenge by revisiting those negative emotions, and despite having a high success rate, psychodynamic therapy may not be as successful to all individuals. In conclusion, the behavioural and psychodynamic perspectives offer distinct yet valuable approaches to understanding human behaviour. The behavioural perspective focuses on observable actions and the role of conditioning, while the psychodynamic emphasises unconscious processes and childhood experiences. Each has its strengths and limitations, with behavioralism being highly scientific but overly simplistic, and psychodynamic providing a deep insight but lacking empirical support. The contributions of key theorists have shaped these perspectives significantly. While they differ in their assumptions and methods, both have influenced modern psychology and continue to be applied in contemporary issues such as mental health treatment and behaviour modification. Integrating these perspectives provides a more comprehensive understanding of human thought and behaviour. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Please see below a list of references used for information regarding my presentation.